The journey of geographic and scientific study and inquiry that resulted in the publishing of Guns, Germs, and Steel began with a simple question asked of me by a New Guinean local politician, Yali.
Why is it that the white man has so much cargo and the black man has so little cargo?
Very interesting. The answer to Yali's question, of course, involved in depth research of why certain civilizations were able to progress and advance, while others were left behind. In the course of my research, I began to formulate a thesis. The reasons for certain civilizations' advancement and conquering of other civilizations through guns, germs, and steel was largely due to geographic and ecological factors outside human control. After compiling some background information about human history as a whole, I narrowed down my research to a key issue: food production. I discovered that people who were born in geographical locations that contained an abundance of domesticable plants were the ones who acquired guns, germs, and steel. For instance, in the Fertile Crescent, wheat and barley grew abundantly. These foods were able to feed large populations. Larger, denser populations led to more military power and more opportunities for people to specialize in technology, writing, and art. I discovered that there are many traits that domesticable plants have, but that undomesticable plants do not. These include large seed size, more flesh, good taste, lack of germination inhibitors, status as a self-compatible hermaphrodite, and so on. There are, of course, some edible plants that have never been domesticated. One example is the acorn. The next part of my thesis involved animals. I discovered that citizens of geographic areas with more domesticable animals acquired guns, germs, and steel because domesticable animals gave them many advantages. They provided food, clothing, power to pull plows and other technology, exposure, and immunity to germs, and transportation. One instance of the importance of domesticable animals was what I like to call the collision at Cajamarca, in which Francisco Pizarro and his cavalry decimated the Inca population in Peru. I also discovered that the basis upon which some animals are domesticable and some aren't is similar to the Anna Karenina principle. Just as unhappy families are uniquely unhappy, each undomesticable animal is uniquely undomesticable. For example, the rhino is undomesticable because of its nasty temper and disposition and its diet. Then I moved on to study writing. That is how some civilizations developed writing before others. Of course, if a civilization developed writing, it was given an advantage over other civilizations because writing could more quickly, accurately, and extensively communicate messages, ideas, and instructions among those in a society than simply speaking. At first, writing was used by an elite few to maintain records, collect taxes, and perform other duties. Hunter-gatherer societies did not use writing, and thus did not gain the edge that literate civilizations had. I also discovered that the seemingly insignificant detail of the orientation of the axes of a continent had great influence upon a society's development of guns, germs, and steel. Food production was diffused much more quickly and effectively across continents with an east-west axis, such as Eurasia, because along the east-west axis, the climates and ecological conditions are often the same, and there are not as many ecological barriers. By contrast, continents with the north-south axis, such as the Americas, were hindered by dissimilar climates and ecological barriers, such as deserts, mountains, and jungles. Another important factor in determining which civilizations developed guns, germs, and steel was receptiveness of the particular society to inventions and technology. A society was more likely to accept inventions if they had an economic advantage, social prestige, compatibility with vested interests, or immediately visible benefits. Factors that increased receptivity to technological innovation were the absence of geographic or ecological barriers to diffusion, a high level of food production, a strong central government, and a socio-cultural encouragement of innovation, science, and risk-taking. The only reason why it was more difficult for the Europeans to invade New Guinea were malaria and an environment not hospitable to European cattle and crops. In conclusion, guns, germs, and steel is the result of all the research and study I have described to you here and more. It is an admittedly lengthy compilation of evidence to support my primary thesis that the reason why certain civilizations advanced over others and acquired guns, germs, and steel was largely due to geographic and ecological factors outside human control. However, although the book has been published, by no means is Yali's question completely answered. There is, of course, much more research to be done to answer such a vast and crucial question. But I believe that through guns, germs, and steel, I have opened up the issue to discussion, one that must continue on into the future.